Hello, my name is Susie Bland and I'm a retired school teacher who loves to tell stories and make puppets. I'm coming to you today from my kitchen and I'm ready to cook up some fun for you at home. We're going to learn about shadow puppets and how to make them. Let's get started with a little background about shadow puppetry. Shadow play and puppetry has a long history in China, India, Nepal, and Southeast Asia, as well as in Turkey and Greece. Shadow puppetry is so embraced by these different cultures, and each seems to claim having the first shadow play performances. The first puppets were made out of mulberry paper. Then they were made from leather. The puppets you are seeing right now are Indonesian. North Carolina is home of a famous puppeteer, Hobie Ford of Asheville. Hobie studied under Jim Henson, and his work is fabulous. Google him to see examples of great shadow puppetry. Weren't those Indonesian shadow puppets beautiful? I can't imagine being able to do such intricate work. Now, in order to do a shadow puppet show, you have to have a shadow puppet theater. I want to show you a few that I have made. The first couple were just made out of boxes that came in the mail. The first one, my ink came in for my printer, and I really like this size. It's little, kids like this. I like it because I can store my puppets in it. When you put the little flashlight behind it, you'll be able to see the puppet moving across the stage. Just made these puppets out of just cardboard that came in the box. When I'm finished, I shut it up and I'm ready to put it up till the next time. The next one just came from Amazon. It's just a box. On this one, I didn't use a shower curtain liner. I just used white copy paper. It's great to use, and everybody usually has a piece of that at their house. The next one I made is my very favorite. It's made out of a pizza box. This makes a really great theater. It's easy, it's versatile. You can store your puppets in this one as well. I used a shower curtain liner on this one. Don't forget, when you order your next pizza or mom takes you to pick up a pizza, you can ask for a couple of extra boxes. It's hard to make one out of a used box because they're greasy. I found that most pizza places are glad to let you have one or two boxes when you go in there and ask. I want to show you a commercial one a friend of mine sent. It's really nice. Great place to do a shadow puppet. Probably cost $25. And we just made one out of a box and a $1 shower curtain liner from Dollar Tree. So that's great. Now what I want to show you is how to make a big stand-up one. Now I'm using a science board that came from Dollar Tree as well. So not a lot of money. Some of you might have one of these in the closet for when your student did their science fair project. I've already cut the oval out. I thought that was a nice shape. And I just traced it using a tray from the kitchen. I want to show you what I've done on this one. In order to help me, because I'm working by myself, I went ahead and put glue dots all around the oval. So when I get ready to put my piece of shower curtain on it, it'll stick to it a lot easier. The one thing about putting the shower curtain on is you need to get it tight. And doing this by yourself, it's harder, but like I said, it can be done. And the one thing about this is you can always, it's not tight, you can pick it up and you can move it. And after I use the glue dots, I generally would have also go back and cover it with heavy tape. I cut some pieces of tape before I started, knowing that would help me when I'm talking to you. So I'm going to show you what it looks like now. Now I've got my shower curtain liner on there, and I have a really nice puppet theater that I can use. And what's really good about this, and I'll also show you this, is you can take a yardstick. I put 2 holes down in the back of this, and this will help it stand up, and I can hang my lights from it. So using a yardstick, if you have one at the house, That helps, and like I said, I then hang my hanging lights from it in order to light up my puppet show. Now, we're going to stop now with the theaters. I think we've done lots with that. And we're going to start showing you how to make the shadow puppets themselves. Shadow puppets are really fun to do with your kids, your grandkids, the neighborhood play group, or you can do them yourself. Okay, now we need to talk about the things that you need to make the shadow puppets and the shadow puppet theaters. You really can just do this with a sheet and some cardboard and a flashlight, but we're going to give you the information so you can make a little bit nicer puppet and a little bit nicer theater. I like to use cardstock. I like to use black cardstock because I think it shows up better. But if you don't have cardstock, you can just use cardboard. Cardboard to make your puppets out of is great. And if you don't have cardboard, go to the recycling bin and pull a box out. This is cardboard and it makes really sturdy puppets. In order to cut my puppets out, I like to use scissors like this when I'm doing the big work. When I'm doing detail work, I like to use a little tiny embroidery scissors. The first ones I used were little toenail scissors from when someone in my family was a baby. But whatever you have, if you have little scissors, they're great for detail work. If you're an adult, you might want to use an X-Acto knife. Please be sure to put cardboard under your puppet so when you're using an X-Acto knife, it does not damage the surface you're working on. Again, these are for adults only. Another way to add detail to your puppets is to use hole punchers. And now you can get this is round, but you can get hole punchers in diamond shape, flower shapes, all kinds of different shapes. And as you punch on the puppet, the light will shine through and it just makes it a little more, a little more interesting to see the light shining through in different places. And one thing you can do is once you have cutouts or made these patterns with the hole punchers, you can cover that with colored tissue paper, and when you have the light show, you will see the colors shining through shining through your light. If you want your puppets to be movable, you need to use, and this is so tiny to show you, you need to use paper fasteners or brass brads. If you want your legs to be able to maneuver your legs, you could just punch a hole and put your legs on with a brass brad. Maybe you want the arms on your puppet to move, so you will use the brass brads wherever you want the puppet to move. If you are doing the theaters, you will need several things too. I showed you box theaters earlier on in this movie. In order to cut out your box, I first of all will need a ruler and a pencil. I like to use a utility knife when I am cutting the cardboard on boxes and stuff like that. I just think it cuts it better. This is something that an adult should use, not a child. So grown-ups, you have to help the kids when they're cutting out the hole in their theater. Of course, they're going to cover that hole with some kind of material. I like to use this. I like to use shower curtain liner. This came from the Dollar Tree. It cost $1, and there's enough shower curtain liner in here to do many, many puppet theaters. You can just use white typing paper. It also works. This is translucent, and I think it really has a nicer effect for your puppet show. You're going to have some kind of light source. These are two little LED clip lights I found on Amazon. They were fairly inexpensive. Just little tiny clip lights. You can use a flashlight. You can use your cell phone light. This is another little clip light I found that you can use. The one I really prefer to use myself is a big clip light like this. Excuse me. It clips onto the table, and it really just uses a light bulb, but it really gives me, I can move it so I get to move it closer, move it farther away to get the effect I want when I'm doing a puppet show. Sometimes I do a puppet show in my classroom using a big science board, so I need a bigger light, but I really like this for all sizes. I think that's everything you need in order to make shadow puppets and to complete your theater that we talked about earlier. So now let's really get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about how we're going to make our shadow puppets. Puppets come in many sizes and shapes. You need to consider the size of your theater screen before making your puppet. Puppets need to be smaller than the height of the screen or you can't use it. You need to decide if your puppet show is going to be based on a story you know, like The Three Little Pigs or The Three Billy Goats Gruff, or if you just want to play and explore with different puppets you like. You can trace your puppet from a book, draw freehand, or find images on your tablet or computer. You can print out these images, trace them onto your cardstock, and cut them out. Google is a great source for shadow puppet patterns, but most kids like to just create and cut out their own. I told you earlier, I think, that I like to make my puppets out of cardstock. It's easier to cut, and when I'm storing them, it fits right in the envelopes I usually store them in. But you can also, if you don't have cardstock, you can use just cardboard. Let's go ahead and show you. I've traced it on there, and I am going to try to show you that this does not take that much time to do. Following your pattern. You may wonder, well, where am I getting these patterns from? Part of these came from online. You can Google shadow puppets and a lot of stuff will come up. You can just go to images on Google and say you want a black image of animals, and like I said, lots will come up. I've also gone into kids' storybooks and put a piece of white paper down, and I have traced characters straight out of a book that I really wanted to do a story. Today I'm doing decided I would be doing a show, The Tortoise and the Hare, which is an Aesop fable. These fables are great to use with if you're doing this with elementary kids, because almost every grade level does some kind of fable or fairy tale unit, and the kids will know those. They won't need a book. They already know the story, and they can just tell the story as they remember it. Again, you can do these freehand if you're very artistic. You can trace it. I generally, like I said, I have done some freehand. I find they look a lot more realistic if I trace a pattern. A lot of times I find one I like, and I'll trace the pattern. Like this is what the pattern looked like. I printed that on the computer, I cut it out, and then I was able to make a cardboard tracer, which I will keep in case someone else ever wants to make another hare. Pull this back up here. We just have a little bit of left to do to round off his back, his hind legs, and we'll have a hare that we can use in the story, The Tortoise and the Hare. I also made small versions of the tortoise and the hare, and in just a minute we'll cut one of those out of cardstock. Cardstock, like I said, I like it because you can take hole punchers and different things, and you can add some detail. It's really cool if you have punches and use a hole puncher, and so the light will come through. You can do eyes. You can just do different kinds of decoration on the. It's hard to round that off with these big scissors. I'm going to grab the small scissors just to try to get this in. Like I said, where it's small and you need to turn, it's hard to turn with big scissors. And then we'll just punch that out, I think. I'm trying. And then you have a pretty good hare that you can use for your story. Now I'm going to cut out a tortoise using cardstock. This is my other set that I found, the tortoise and the hare. And if you'll look on this one, they've got all kinds of, the white on there is where if you had a X-Acto knife, and again, that would be for adults only, or you could use a hole punch. I've got a hole punch that's diamond shape. You could add some detail by punching the holes and a pattern on the turtle's back, on the tortoise's back. I'm using a gold Sharpie. I normally use a pencil, but I really wanted you to be able to see what it looked like when I traced it. And just carefully trace. when I do the small puppets, I'm going to use the small scissors. And you make it easier to go back, and if you've made any mistakes, or to round off some of these edges that maybe when I cut with the scissors they look sharper. These little tortoise and the hare look like they've got clothes on. I have to be careful right here because it's really tight in there. So this is what it looks like. First I'm going to cut this out so it's a small piece of paper to work with. Put my paper to the side, and then I'll grab my scissors. Let's see, I'm going to work up here on this hat because I think it's going to be, so there's a little tight space in here, and I'm going to have to cut this out a little bit. I think that's really how it's supposed to be. I didn't do a good job tracing with that big thick pen. It's not quite as easy. Like I said, just follow it around. You continue to cut till you've got your puppet. You really can do all kinds of stories with shadow puppets. I've even seen as I said, I was a teacher, and I've seen teachers make all kinds of things and use a shadow puppet theater. But we're making this now for fun and for retelling a story. I know lots of people are doing virtual learning at home, so if you're a parent, this is a fun way to get kids to retell stories. And it's also a fun way for you guys to do an activity together that's enjoyable. Get my little tortoise almost cut out. When I get here, I'm going to try to make his little hat thing stand out a little bit more. I think that was supposed to be the brim of his hat, and I didn't do a good job when I traced it. I'm going to go back here and make that look a little more like his hat. I think that I didn't trace that well. Still a little tiny edge I can't get to come out. Let's see, there it goes. So now it looks more like he's got the brim of a hat. I'm going to make that one a little smaller. Oops, maybe I made it too small. Hey, that's one thing about this. If you make a mistake, you just cut it down a little bit smaller. Nobody will ever know. There we go. So there he's got his hat on, and we're ready to go. We're going to add sticks next. That is the next part. You need a stick to pull these out. These are skewers. These came from the Dollar Tree also. It's $1. I think I got 50 of those. You need to remember, first thing I always do is trim off the point. You can just take scissors and cut it off, just because I don't want anybody sticking themselves with them. I like to use these. You can use straws. I've seen people use floral wire too, but of course that bends so easily. This is how you're going to control your puppet. I want to show you that there's really an easy way to put this stick on here so that when you have it, then you can fold it flat and store it in an envelope. You're going to need 2 pieces of tape. Just going to kind of pull them out. And I usually put on 1 piece at a time. And then you go up your piece of tape like that, and I'm going to show you that you just lay it on your puppet, and I'm going to show you this is how you can store them flat. Then I fold it back. Then I take my other piece of tape. I try to cover up the sticky part on the tape I just put on there, and then I put that down. Now I can control my puppet with this stick, but when it's time to store it, it will lay flat. Now, one thing you can also do for your puppets, and I'm going to show you, this is a little bit bigger. This is a puppet that has a movable part. Now, if you can tell, I'm going to turn this over so you can see. There's 2 parts. I used a hole punch, and I punched a hole in the head. I take a brass brad. You thread it through, and you're going to need to have a stick on each part that moves. So on this puppet, because I wanted his head to move up and down, I had to have a stick on either side. And I did it just like I did before. Brads are what you do. You can have the head move. Some people do feet. I've seen a galloping horse before, make him gallop. This is just our little pig is gonna just run down the road. Now, one other thing you can do to your puppets to make them interesting is you can use tissue paper to make them more colorful. And I know it doesn't sound like with a shadow puppet that the color will show, but let me show you that if you make a shadow puppet, this is just a smiley face I did, you can cut tissue paper and tape the tissue paper on the back, and when a light shines through this shadow puppet, when I put it in the theater, you'll be able to see that he has pink eyes and a pink mouth. And now the next thing to do is to talk about how we're going to actually put on the puppet show and what it actually looks like when the lights are on and we're having a puppet show. Some other ways to make a theater include making a theater from a cardboard box. They can be made from a wooden frame using scrap wood if there's someone handy at your house. You can use a paper gift box, a pizza box, or you can recycle a cardboard science board you might have in the closet. Big theaters can be made of PVC pipes, or you can hang a shower curtain liner from the door to have an instant theater. Cut a rectangle or circle in the back of the box. Cover with a piece of white shower curtain or shower curtain liner, or you can use white paper that you tape or glue behind the hole. You will use your clip light, your flashlight, or your cell phone light to light the screen for your puppets. This is the theater that we made earlier. I've put the clip light onto the yardstick and hung it up there. Now, normally I would be doing this performance from behind the board. Because we're making this video, I'm to the side. The show we were going to do today was an Aesop fable, and we chose to do the tortoise and the hare. And you know the story. The hare brags that he's faster than anybody else, and he brags so much the tortoise challenges into a race. And of course, you know, the race starts and that hare just goes and goes and goes and goes there. He's just running down the hill, he's gone. And of course, we know what happens to the tortoise. The tortoise moves slow and steady across the screen. He's going, he'll make it to the hill eventually, but he's just moving really slow. And of course, the hare is so far ahead, he gets to a certain point in the race and he decides, whoops, excuse me, I just dropped that. He decides that he is going to take a nap. So he just kind of goes to the side of the road and he lays down to take a nap. Well, you know who's still going, slow and steady. Here comes the tortoise, sees the hare sleeping, just keeps going. He knows the finish line is right ahead, and he just keeps moving. And of course, eventually the tortoise goes to the finish line, and he is the winner. Yee! The tortoise is so happy. And we know the lesson that we learned is slow and steady wins the race. Or maybe you're going to say that bragging doesn't always help you, and kids say different things. This is a great activity to do with your family. You can do it with your kids, your grandkids. If you're a teacher, you can do it with your students. Kids can do this at home. This is great for virtual learning. They can make up their own stories. They can retell stories they're reading in school or retell stories they're reading at home. Please take time to do this with your family. It's a lot of fun. And I'm really happy that you spent this last 30 minutes with me. And I wish I could see all the puppet shows that you do, but I can't. But I will just be thinking about everybody that sees this video and hope that it has helped them a little. Thanks. Bye-bye.
A+U is created by A+ Schools of North Carolina, a program of the North Carolina Arts Council, which is an agency of the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.